Archangel, a glider. The mission: design, build, fly a hand-launched glider that can go at least 20 feet, record and present the design and testing process in a high-quality visual presentation. Requirements: it must fly at least 20 feet, the further the better. In order to maximize this distance, A.K.A was used to project the glider's flight path, and factors such as mass, wing shape, and wing area could be adjusted in order to better understand the optimization there. The vehicle also had to maintain level flight throughout the flight in order to achieve this distance. This optimization will be explored in more detail later. The vehicle must be hand-launched using no aids, must be constructed primarily out of the provided balsa wood, and it must be something I can construct. Finally, it must fit in a 16-inch by 16-inch box. The forces that act on the aircraft are lift, drag, and gravity. Using Newton's law F equals ma, differential equations for horizontal and vertical acceleration can be written, and approximate solutions for velocity and position can be created using Euler's method. The optimization indicated that in order to maximize range, drag had to be minimized, primarily by maximizing E, efficiency factor. Mass had to be minimized. I set a target of less than 20 grams, and initial horizontal velocity had to be maximized. However, the plane should be thrown horizontally, as initial vertical velocity merely changed the shape of the parabola traced by the vehicle and did not impact the total distance flown. There were system-level alternatives to the design. The first option was a glider using wings and some sort of tail assembly. The second option was a primarily balsa wood ball constructed in order to mimic a baseball and thrown by my roommate who plays baseball and could throw it at least 150 feet, and he promised at least 200. Despite the clear superiority of the baseball, the glider design was chosen because it would be more fun and more interesting to do so. All aircraft concepts were evaluated using the optimization Excel sheet, and they were all evaluated in tandem, so that the full ramifications of a decision could be analyzed. As an example, wing size would not just impact lift, but also drag and mass. So the optimization would take all of that into account and allow me to find the optimal wingspan. The tailplane, meanwhile, was sized by picking an arbitrary size that looked about right and verifying it through testing, as the optimization sheet is incapable. The overall design of the vehicle. The aircraft was to be made of balls as per requirements. The wing shape would be determined through optimization. The wing would be placed as far back as possible so that the center of lift would be predicted to be behind the center of mass even without additional mass. Tail configuration and dihedral would be determined by ease of construction and by research. And the body would be streamlined to reduce drag and shaved down as much as possible to reduce mass. Wing shape and size is crucial for both lift and drag. All wing shapes would have a full 40 centimeter 16-inch wingspan so as to maximize aspect ratio, but 3 shapes were considered: a rectangular wing with a chord of 7 centimeters, an elliptical wing with a chord of 7 centimeters, and an elliptical wing with a shorter chord, roughly 4 centimeters. The rectangular wing was rejected in favor of an elliptical wing because the optimization Excel sheet suggested that the additional drag caused by the lower efficiency factor would not make up for the additional wing area. An elliptical wing with a chord of 7 centimeters was chosen. As though wings with a smaller chord would have a greater aspect ratio and therefore less drag, they would generate too little lift to fly. Reduced drag would not make up for the reduced lift. For dihedral, 3 configurations were considered: a perfectly flat wing with no dihedral, a wing flat in the middle section with the wingtips raised roughly 10 degrees, and a wing curved along its entire span with a total angle of about 10 degrees. 10 degrees being an arbitrary choice, as sources differed wildly on what was optimal. As dihedral would add much needed roll stability, a wing with no dihedral was rejected. As cutting the wing and reattaching the wingtips at an angle was seen as too difficult, it too was rejected, therefore the curved wing design was chosen. For tail configurations, 3 tail configurations were considered: a standard tail with rectangular horizontal and vertical stabilizers, a standard tail with elliptical horizontal and vertical stabilizers, and an elliptical tail stabilizer with a half ellipse for the horizontal stabilizer, with movable flaps attached to the back. A tail with rectangular wings was rejected due to the increased drag that rectangular wings would cause, and the tail with movable flaps was selected over the one with static flaps, as this would allow flight performance to be trained after construction. Flaps were attached with a small bit of tape that would allow the flaps to be moved but let them hold their position. After a final position was determined experimentally, they were wood glued into place. Pre-construction design iteration was done using the Excel spreadsheet. All of these design decisions and all the minor design tweaks were done by tweaking parameters in the optimization sheet. After construction, the vehicle was flown in my backyard to test its flight characteristics, as indoor flight tests proved destructive to both the plane and to the drywall, and resulted in me having to tape the wing tips together. The 2 aspects of performance being investigated were aircraft stability and flight distance. Initially, the aircraft was unstable, but
I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
the addition of a small mass of mounting putty to the nose moved the center of gravity far forward enough for the vehicle to be stable. Due to imperfections in the wing curvature, due to imperfections in the balsa wood, the plane had a strong tendency to roll right. To address this, the left back flap was raised more than the right one to create an opposite roll moment and balance the natural tendency to roll right. After this was done, the glider was fairly stable. Initially, the aircraft flew a very short distance due to aerodynamic instability and its roll tendency. Correcting for stability, performance improved, but was still poor, as the aircraft was holding a very low angle of attack. As optimization indicated a 5-degree angle of attack was optimal, the flaps were lifted a few degrees above horizontal to induce a small pitch moment, increasing performance in testing to over 40 feet. The two parameters that were changed in testing were mass of nose puttee and the position of the flaps. After any change was made, a few flights were conducted to see its effects and to identify what the next tweak would have to be. The only major design iteration was reducing the width of the flaps. The original flaps were so wide that even the smallest change in flap angle caused the aircraft to execute loop-de-loops. The flaps were therefore cut down to about 5 millimeters wide, so that a small change would have less effect, therefore allowing performance to be tuned more carefully. This is the final design, with the vehicle characteristics listed to the side. The calculated coefficient of lift at t equals 0 was 0.219, and the calculated coefficient of induced drag at t equals 0 was 0.02. The aircraft's center of mass was just behind the wingtip and just ahead of the quarter chord, about 10 centimeters behind the nose of the aircraft. Center of lift was about 11 centimeters behind the nose of the aircraft, meaning the center of mass was ever so slightly ahead of the center of lift. Here is the best flight from the competition, flying 33.3 feet.
Another happy landing.
Here is a graph of the best flight as estimated by the optimization. The optimization indicated that the aircraft was maintaining approximately a 2-degree angle of attack. Notes, the aircraft's right wing broke from the body during transport, and during this flight was secured only by a zip tie. To compensate for this, a small amount of Play-Doh was added to the left wingtip to counteract the anticipated rightward roll moment due to the new angle of the broken wing. The design met the primary requirements of this project. It flew 33.3 feet at 13.3 feet above the minimum, met the ball's construction requirement and hand launching requirements. It was less than 16 inches by 16 inches. A glider was designed, optimized, and constructed and tested for a purpose of flying at least 20 feet, did so successfully despite experiencing a serious mechanical failure and despite no testing being done on the impromptu repair. The low mass of the glider actually was an issue, as it was so light it was difficult to throw it fast. Therefore, a more throwable design could have performed better. At these speeds, in fact, a wingless, spear-like design may have been better able to go further simply because it would have been much more throwable. The bent wing dihedral ended up being a poor choice, as imperfections in the ball led to an imperfect curve, and they were difficult to mount exactly centered on the plane. This led to the roll moment that was observed.